What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill, S2H, and our guest coach that's with us today, Andrew Berry. All of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You could use our code ADVICES for some additional savings, high-quality supplements, stuff like PeriMD. Is that what it's called? Yeah, PeriMD. That's the Mountain Dog product that I use from True Nutrition. My brain just stopped working there for a minute.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, PeriMD. I was getting them all confused. There's a bunch of different stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a Team Skip blend too.
I use Team Skip. I just bought 7 pounds of Team Skip.
That one. Did you?
I did. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to talk a bunch of bodybuilding stuff today, of course, as always. First of all, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, everybody who's watching this live from the Advices Radio and Think Big Bodybuilding Media Facebook group. Feel free to post up any questions you have. Anybody who's watching this on the recorded YouTube version, all your comments, your likes, all that stuff, that helps to boost us up in the algorithm. You can also post questions for the following show. We'll tackle that. I think we have a couple of those from last week. We were going to talk today about, we're all coaches, and some of us have been coaching for 20 years. Skip. And we're still learning, though. We're still learning and evolving, and you have to continue learning and evolving to continue growing and progressing. So I wanted to ask the guys today, what are some of the new things that they've been learning in the gym in the past couple of years? We're going to get to all your listener questions, but first, we had an experiment.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for this?
Pretty good. You can't take a small whiff. You can't be like my wife hitting a bong. You got to be you got to pull. You got to pull on that when you try it.
Both nostrils too.
Yep, exactly.
I'm ready to take over.
Yes. Scott was earlier today, he texted me. He was like, hey guys, if he was like, after you can't continue hosting the show, I'll take over for the next 15 minutes. So get ready for that. Well, we got a holo from Serbia. How about that?
Nice.
We're freaking in Serbia right now. That's badass. And hello from the UK. And we've got Tanya Miller. What's up, Tanya? How you doing?
She set her alarm to make sure that she didn't miss the show this time.
It's Tanya, but I just like giving her shit because I mispronounced it and now I'm just running with it. Do we start?
I think you need to dive in.
Go for it.
Get ready for the show.
Here's the thing. So we were talking about ammonia caps. I've never done ammonia caps before. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, man, I want to try that. And then the next rational thought was, well, why don't I do it live on the podcast? Not in the gym, right? Have each one of you guys done ammonia caps?
Oh, yeah.
I did once. Not the cat. Now, when you unscrew it's in a bottle, right? Yeah.
No, these are different. These are the legit. This
tab.
is like a box of 10. Let me see what I got here. And this is an ammonia cap. And it's like a cardboard thing, and you got to crack it. And they carry these in ambulances.
Paramedics carry them.
Yeah.
If you pass out or you're feeling lightheaded.
What is it like, Andrew? How would you describe this experience?
It makes your nasal passage in your brain very unhappy.
Exactly.
Okay.
It just it goes whoop, right to the root of your brain.
Yeah.
And it just you're give me something to hit or to to kick or to lift, basically. So,
I hear it triggers your fight or flight. So
yeah,
you're amped up and you're
target your sympathetic nervous system. So it takes it from here to there really quickly. There are some studies that show it's actually not the best thing to do because to really initiate your sympathetic before you actually do the lift. Have you guys seen that stuff?
No, I haven't, but I can believe it.
Yeah, the idea is that you would actually rather be at a calm, normal level and then pick your sympathetic up during the actual lift versus shooting your wad and then trying to do it afterwards, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it'll impact your blood glucose levels as well, I would imagine. Now, I don't know if it's going to impact them so quickly. It probably should. I mean, epinephrine is going to wipe your shit out real fast. I mean, you know how it goes. You get into a situation or something becomes stressful real quick. You almost get in a car accident. You feel like dog shit about a minute after it happens because your blood sugar just goes in the toilet, and you're that response, that fight or flight is just, you're amped from
Yeah.
a
adrenaline dump.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
So you've done them, Skip.
I've done them, but we would take this has been a long time. This is how it wasn't very good. And I said, I did not fucking need that. You would unscrew the cap. Like you would kind of like shake it up. Like, so maybe it's like salts inside. You would shake it and you would hold it to your nose and it would,
Yeah.
What's that?
Nose torque. That was the name of the product.
It may well have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had a training partner at that time who used
methanol
them.
in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I saw him use it, so I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to get in." It was Mark Hoffman. I've talked about this guy before from Michigan, so I'm like, he's a fucking monster. He's hardcore. Look, give me that shit. Oh my god, what the fuck is that? And it burned. It burned like horribly bad. Like, damn.
I've got sinus issues too.
Right? Yeah. Well, good luck.
It'll clear your sinuses right up.
Yeah, either that or I won't breathe for the rest of the night. One of the two.
Yeah,
Go, dude.
Start over.
S2H, you've used these?
Yeah, I used to use them lifting, but I don't like them because they make me sneeze.
Yeah.
So there's nothing worse than being like pressing your lift out and you got to sneeze. But yeah, I mean, some guys, I think in powerlifting side, some guys like them.
Huh.
It's either one of those you really like them or you really don't.
Okay.
I think there's a psychological effect there too. I mean, if you're used to using them and that's how you get amped up, you hit yourself in the face, you do whatever it is you do, you have your routine. And, if a study comes out and says, well, this isn't as good as we thought, I don't think anybody who's been using them, quite consistently or religiously is going to go, yeah, fuck my routine. They just continue to use them.
Andrew, you're a strong dude. I mean, I know you've squatted some decent weight. Is this something you've done on a regular basis or?
No, it was like if like one of your buddies has one in his bag, I'm like, oh, give me one of those. Like, I want to go a little extra today or whatever you want to call it. Okay. But I was saying earlier, like during the whole COVID thing, my gym was using straight ammonia to clean a lot of the equipment.
You're kidding.
So I would just carry these squirt bottles with straight ammonia in there. When I get on the hack squat, I'm like, all right, let's bring it back to like high school days.
Yeah.
That's just a high concentration of ammonia gas instead of the carbonate.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing as a salt. Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the thing. I feel like I'm looking at my gym as we talk. If I was in the gym right now and I had that music fucking cranked and I was like amped, I feel like that would be one thing. But I'm just like relaxed. I'm talking to my friends.
Just do it.
We're talking some bodybuilding, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this shit now. But I don't have a choice. All right.
Yeah, I would just do it, man. Just rip it.
All right, here we go.
Right in
when
front
you're
of all
done,
your trophies.
when you're done, just pass it to me. Pass it through the corner, like the top corner right here.
So we got this. It's a 10-pack is what I got here. I looked at the nose torque, with the screw-on cap and all that. But I thought, like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do the real deal. You know what I mean? Fuck, I'm actually nervous now.
Snap it in half and stick it up by your...
I'm actually fucking nervous now. All right.
Breathe out before you suck in.
If I was training, it wouldn't be a big thing. If I was training, it wouldn't be a big thing. But, like, because we built it up now, I'm actually kind of feeling like...
Well, and if you were training, you wouldn't pull once; you'd pull a couple times. You got to be psycho.
Yeah, my heart's actually racing right now. I'm not kidding, man.
It's usually like the second or third pull that really is a strong one.
Exactly.
You go like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me test the water. Let me put my foot in the water first. Okay, I can handle that. Give me some more. I would just rip and go.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
No, slow it in. Come on. Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I'm your host today.
I was surprised actually. The first three, like, you didn't even show any facial, like.
Yeah.
Like,
You must have a tolerance or something.
I don't think he got it that good the first.
Oh no, I got it.
Last time he got it.
The last one you could see it. Like, your eyes got red. She's like an annex now.
Shit's all over my hands now. Look at that too. When it cracks,
the defibrillator out.
It definitely like made me more on.
Yeah.
Well, your face is red, so there's a start.
Look at my eyes.
You have a
Look more
seriousness
on
in your eyes right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if we were training right now, I'd be ready. But it wasn't what it wasn't like the fucking punch in the face that I expected. Like I expected it to be so like painful that it would be like getting punched in the face, you know, that like it's just boom, like getting hit by a car feeling.
Well, that's how I remember it. So I don't know. Maybe just cup your hand and let that get.
I mean, it wasn't good. You know what I mean?
You'll be blowing your nose the whole show this time.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I expected that to be a lot worse.
You maybe had some weak ones. You know, they do lose. How old are they? Because they do lose potency. I've snapped them before where you're like, oh, there's nothing left in this one. Like it's expired.
Well, it's brand.
I expected you to
They're
roll
brand new. I
backwards.
just picked them up. It's a brand new box.
Okay.
Yeah, they expired
You must have
2024.
a high tolerance.
Yeah.
I think, you know what, man? My nasal passages are so messed up. I think that that's like that maybe because I felt it, but I was like, oh yeah, back in my drug days, I snorted shit that hurt more than this.
Oh, well, then maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Maybe you had just very, very scarred nasal passages.
Right.
Yeah. That could play a part.
I definitely feel on.
I was
though.
going to say, Scott, it's like smashing a pill and snorting that you're not supposed to snort.
Yeah.
But I've heard from other people
Wait,
that happens. You know?
are there pills that you are supposed to snort?
Wikipedia had an article on it that said you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's get on with this podcast. Talk some bodybuilding stuff. I don't know. By the way, I'll have to think about it. I might try this again, but only when I'm gonna do like my biggest lift, and if I really felt like I needed it. But I feel like a cattle prod might be. That's what I want. I expected like to get hit by a cattle prod, basically. Like, you know, I don't know. Sorry to disappoint, guys. I was ready to go wherever it took me, but
Anticlimactic.
I know, right?
A for effort. A for effort.
Yeah,
I am
exactly.
feeling on though. So topic wise, you know, we were talking a little bit before the show. I feel like the last year or so myself, I looked at my back progress and I knew that there were some things that I needed to change. People who follow our podcasts, they've probably, heard me talk on the other shows about some of the variations that I've been making. I mean, man, I've been doing this for a long time, you know, and I trained with Shelby Starnes, fantastic pro, known for his intensity for like 5 years straight. Yet my back didn't grow the way I wanted it to. And now if I want my back to grow, is it going to happen if I continue doing what I've always done? You know, so it's tough to change, I guess, and especially when you've been doing this for a long time. But we had the chance to talk to Andrew here. We've got S2H and Skip, tons of, real world experience over the years. I wanted to pick your guys' brains on what are some of the changes that you guys have made. I figured maybe we go to Andrew first since he's our guest.
I think an easy change that, you know, when you're a young guy, you're just trying to get strong, right? And you're trying to just put more weight on the bar. And I think there's a point where you cross over where you're in that older guy group where you're trying to make exercises harder without actually adding weight on the bar. Like for example, like today I did a leg workout and I squatted, and I don't do regular barbell back squats anymore just because I just can't do them anymore. The shoulders are messed up, and then I lead to injuries in my hips and whatever. So I was did anyone ever see that video that Dante did with Dusty, where he was squatting in that rack using the safety squat bar just recently?
Yes.
It was like back to school with Dante. So I started doing those recently, and they felt great on my back. But anyway, the point was I incorporated his 5-second hold in the hole. And that's something I do a lot now with like different exercises is either, hold the stretch position for like 3 to 5 seconds or, find a way to make the exercise harder versus easier. When you're a high school kid or a college kid or you're early in your career, let's say you're bench pressing, you might get a little loose with the form and bounce it off your chest just to get that 275 up to 315, up to 3, whatever, And then as you get older, you realize, hey, I'm kind of fragile and I can get hurt. And once I'm sure all of us have had major injuries at some point, you start realizing, hey, like I can't just keep throwing weight on the bar to the detriment of my joints and tissue. So you find ways to make the exercises harder. And I think that's one thing you can do to progress. Yeah.
I think I've done that kind of stuff. Skip?
Well, and I think just to piggyback off of what he's saying, because I completely agree. I've spoken about this quite a bit because I don't adhere to the typical progressive overload, you absolutely must get more weight on the bar to grow, which is not to say that you can't grow that way. I'm just saying that over time, like Andrew was saying, these things can add up. And we're also generating more intensity than we were when we first started, when we were moving bigger weights. I mean, I can even look at some of my training. I've said before, my arms are significantly larger than they were before, yet I am not stronger and moving more weight than I was 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago when it comes to my arms. So there's a lot of things to tweak there. When it comes to back training, I'm always a believer, and I have to be, because I was born with pretty much shitty everything except maybe calves and in good shape to my quads. Everything else I've had to really fight for. So when it comes to back, I've never had a very wide back. So to be able to add size, I've had to come up with things and experiment and try different things. And one of the things that has worked so well for me is, and in hindsight, I can see it. Back in the days when I first started, I wasn't getting retraction as much as I needed to. And that has really impacted over the last, I don't even know, 7, 8 years or so, my progress with my back. And to do that, it's just basically, retraction basically just meaning in the top position, especially for a row or something like that, that your shoulder blades or your scapula are coming in together. You won't know if you're not doing it if you don't know what to look for. You could even take a video and you may not see it unless you just literally didn't have a shirt on. So anything from the back like that can sometimes be something that is easily missed. And then you go, like you said, Scott, 4 or 5 years and you're hitting your back and you're thinking, gosh, I'm not getting much growth. I remember thinking I needed to do things like, lat pulls and pull downs and things like that to widen my back. But if my scapula aren't going to come apart genetically very far, I made a shift and thought, you know what? Dusty has a pretty wide fucking back, and I think we can all agree. I don't see the motherfucker do a lot of chins, but I see him rowing like he's pulling trains. So to think and to get into that it's almost a misnomer to think that rowing will not make your back wider, as an example, over time. The muscle will your back will get wider. I'm not going to say that the lat pull and chins and things like that aren't important for width. All I'm saying is there are some things with back training that are still accepted today that are basically misnomers. They're not as black and white as you may think. So when you get into something as complicated as training back, because there's so many muscles involved, if you're just moving the weight, you could potentially, especially if you're not genetically predisposed to have a good back, you could end up really struggling with your back development. So those types of things are important. And I would put retraction, maybe not even at the top of the list, but off the top of my head, I find it to be one of the more important things because I benefited tremendously from that. And I had a below average, predisposition to have a good back. I still don't have a good back, but I have a better back than I did before.
Yeah, I'll say that I saw a video. I think of those time training with Shelby because I would shoot video all the time and share it on social media and stuff. And we had a back workout that just popped up from like 2016, 2017. And I watched it. I could look at my form and I could pick out a bunch of stuff that was like, oh, wow, yeah, I shouldn't have been doing that. For instance, I wasn't getting enough stretch. You know what I was doing? I was not making it as hard as I possibly could. I was trying to save myself. So instead of getting that full stretch where the lats really pull, I'd stop shy, And I see people do that in the gym all the time because if you were to go that extra 3 inches, it would make that a lot harder. You might not be able to pull as much weight as you were,
Right. We're making your muscle in the weakest position at that point, right? When you're going from that full stretch, now the muscle's in its weakest position. So now you really, really have to drive. Versus staying here, you're still in a stronger position.
Yeah. Right. And it's something like it's not like I was intentionally doing that, but even though I was training as hard as I could, even though that I would be sore after that workout, there was more I could have gotten out of it. And, who knows what else I was using to, biceps or whatever else to move that weight. So yeah, it's interesting, man. Cause you think, cause training something that I feel like everybody feels like they know what they're doing. I've had a lot of people that come to me for help and they want to talk all about nutrition. They want to talk all about the drugs, but then like the training, they're like, nah, I got the training. I've been training for a long time, And it's like, I guess the point is that you've got 4 people here who have made bodybuilding basically their entire life, and we're still learning, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things from the mental side is most people are their own worst critic. So if you don't think a muscle's growing, maybe get somebody that's, got a good eye and maybe get an opinion. The other one is I don't like to train with other people, but sometimes if you look around the gym and there's somebody that's, got a good physique or good body part you're looking to build, maybe they're doing an exercise you just forgot about. I think we've all been there. We've gone, damn, I used to do that 15 years ago. And you just forgot about that lift, maybe it's something you want to try. And I just say overall with motivation, what I used to do is switch gyms.
Yeah.
So if I was really not motivated after 3, 4, 5 years somewhere, I would just go somewhere else. Maybe new equipment, new atmosphere, new crowd, whatever. That helps sometimes.
Well, when it comes to back training, it's nice these days too, because if you go back 15, 20 years, I know you guys aren't as old as I am, but if you go back that far, we didn't have, prior to hammer strength, you're pretty limited with the angles. And then something like hammer strength comes along, these lever machines, and now you're hitting angles and doing things where you weren't able to. Think about a dumbbell row then versus now. I mean, it was day and night, and it's good to see people still using, the old school dumbbell row, but with hammer strength angles. I mean, there's just so many. Sometimes I'll go to a new gym, and I'll be like, oh my God, I haven't used that piece and I don't know how long. And it's just an awesome piece. And you're like, oh, I'm just so glad to hit this, differently. And because the muscles of the back, it's such a complicated muscular structure that the different angle, and this is just my opinion. Other people may not think this way, and they like to stick with the same exercises, and that's cool. But I have always been a huge proponent of variety in different angles. And even if it's the same exercises, to do them in different sequences and with different rep tempos and rep speeds and things, rep ranges, supersetting different exercises, things like that, always doing something different, where someone else may want to stay with the same 4, 5, 6 exercises, stick with them for a while to watch, to see that there's progression as far as progression with strength and that sort of thing. And like I've said numerous times, I don't emphasize strength as much as I used to. I really liked Andrew saying to make that exercise as hard as possible. I tell my clients now when I train them one-on-one that is so important, because most people who don't have much experience will look at it as, I just need to lift this from point A to point B. And I always say it's not even really don't even think about it as lifting the weight or moving it from point A to point B. You're basically using the weight versus lifting it. And I'm trying, in saying that, I'm trying to come up with something that they can relate to. And they may not get it at the time, but if they put in enough time, they'll get it, and they'll remember me saying that, and it'll kind of click. So I think for people who have trained for a long time, that probably does make sense. Oh shit, I am using it instead of lifting it. Or maybe, oh shit, I'm just focused on moving it from point A to point B. I guess that is just moving the weight. And I think that those two approaches can be completely different and can result in completely different, like a different end result.
Yeah. I know I don't want to go too far off topic, but it's a question I genuinely wanted to ask Andrew. Skip mentioned, being able to hit a muscle with a lot of different exercises. And when I think about that, I think about the way John Meadows trains. He's always had like a ton of variety in his training. Every workout is going to be, a little bit different. And I know that you've learned a lot from John. You've worked with him, you've come up through him. In fact, are you a Mountain Dog approved coach?
Yeah, I still do articles for the site, and me and John talk like once or twice a week on the phone or whatever. He would say he basically a couple years back, he was like, look, keep doing what you're doing on the site, and any clients you get from there, you can have. Cool. Don't give me anything. We're good. So
okay. Well, how does that influence you in your training? Out of curiosity.
So. All right, so I'll just give a brief history of my evolution of training, because I worked with Dante back in 2004 and 5 or 6 or something like that. And so, up until from 2006 to about 2011, I was just straight progressive overload until, I reached my max strengths and the injuries started piling up and a couple of hernia surgeries and all that good stuff, right? So then I was like, all right, so I got to figure out, because I'm getting to be closer to 30 here, I got to think about longevity at this point, and now using that base of strength to, hit exercises a little differently. And that's actually where I think I started doing research online. And that's kind of how I learned about John. And I reached out to him and I annoyed him with questions like every other day, and I wasn't even a client. Like I wasn't even a client. And so it was actually really nice of him to respond back and be like, hey, I kind of have this pay site where you can pay $10 a month and read about this stuff, or you can actually ask me these questions and now I get paid to answer them. But otherwise, I'll keep answering them for you. So he's a nice guy about that. But So anyway, his influence of and here's the thing. I think a lot of people think that there's this big disparity between a progressive overload type program or like a one set to failure type program and mountain dog training. And I think it's just a matter of semantics really, because if you're doing a workout with John, let's say you're doing 4 back exercises, and 4 sets each. Well, and you're doing, let's say 8 to 10 reps or whatever each exercise. The first 3 sets of those exercises are going to be feeder / warm up / whatever you want to call them sets, where your RPE is not at a 10. You might do a set. Let's say you're doing pull downs with 200. You might get 10 reps, and it feels like a 6. And then you might go to 220 and whatever, get 8, and it might feel like a 6 or 8 or whatever. Anyway, the point is you work up to that one all-out set where you're going to bust your ass and you're going to go to failure. So again, it just comes down to semantics with, all right, is that one set in that exercise, or is that 4 sets of 8 or 10 or whatever the reps are? And in my mind, it's always just been, my mind with approach to training has always been, I'm working up to that one set that I'm really going to empty the tank or, give everything on. Yeah. And also, I just want to also get back to what Skip said about, going to get away from the progressive overload. I still have a progressive overload attack or approach to it, but again, making those exercises harder now versus trying to give myself every advantage I can. Sure. So, like for instance, Dante taught me this one arm pull down. Well, each rep you're given a 5-second stretch. Okay. So you can imagine that the weight I can use is probably cut down about 40% or 30% over what I could do if I was just grinding it out. Right. So I'm still trying to progress in that sense, if you get what I'm saying, but now with those difficulties added inside. So I still have a progressive overload effect or approach, but I also still have the influence of John with the exercises, the angles, incorporating, either a stretch technique on one exercise or really trying to hit some high threshold motor units in other exercises. So I think, there's a variety there. It's kind of like, I would love to take someone through the gym and be like, okay, so my mental approach on this exercise is I want to do this, or it's not like I could just be a client and be like, all right, this is how you do every set, every exercise, every rep, because the way you're going to hit, say, a set of rack deadlifts is going to be very different than, like Skip pointed out, like training arms. Like my arm training is very pussy pump weight type stuff because I think you're getting a lot of work from them when you're doing your upper body, and I don't want to trash my elbows, and they get trashed if I try to do progressive overload, curling 70-pound dumbbells. I'll look over and I'll see a high school kid yanking up a weight that's probably twice what I've lifted with curls, and I'm, my arms are growing just fine now, I think, and again, that comes with like longevity with training and just getting smarter and figuring out that, certain things don't necessarily work for every body part. So,
yeah. Well, right on. Listen, we got to jump to a quick commercial break here. We've got some questions. If you guys have some more questions, feel free to drop them here in the feed. I see we had a couple of them pop up. So we'll get to those, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a second. Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for watching another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. And thank you to our great sponsor, TrueNutrition.com, for making this all possible. TrueNutrition.com is owned by Dante Trudell, the creator of DC Training. He wanted to create a supplement company that offered high-quality, third-party tested supplements at a fair price. High-quality protein powders, just about every type you could think of. Huge variety of flavors, plus health and performance supplements. Check them out, TrueNutrition.com. And hey, if you use our code ADVICES, you directly support our podcasting. Thanks, guys. Let's get back to the program. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Skip Hill, S2H, and our special guest coach, Andrew Berry. I'm Scott McNally. I wanted to mention too, I started a Patreon for Advices Radio and Think Big Bodybuilding Media. So for the recorded version of this, I'm going to put that link down there. If you guys want to do anything to support the show, I've had people that have asked like, hey, how can I support, especially like our guys in Europe. They're like, I can't buy stuff through True Nutrition because they don't ship, international and stuff without it costing like, $300 for a 5-pound bag of protein. If anybody is interested, we'd love to have you. But regardless, we're happy to have you guys watching the shows. Where do we want to start here? We had a bunch of stuff.
Send $1,000 checks in care of Scott McNally.
$500 minimum a month, people. All right.
Yeah.
Here.
My sinuses, by the way, are clear. Like they, I feel good. I'm gonna need to use one of these like every day now. I think
pressure.
Yes.
Scott, maybe you should start like an Advices Radio OnlyFans.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'll
there you
crack
go.
one of these things open every day. Like that'll be the thing. That'll be like your entertainment.
You could do like Scott Socks picture or something like that, because there's some weird people that'll send you money for weird stuff.
You can have one of S2H's socks. Yeah.
We have a OnlyFans member at the gym, and I won't say which gym because I train at a few different gyms, so I'll be fair. But now myself and a couple of my clients, we have to go on and look to see, because she'll do shit in the gym, in different parts of the gym, and we're always impressed that number one, we seem to miss it while we're there, and she may well be there while we're there, but we always miss it. And how she does not get caught is beyond me. And the girls make bank, so more power to her.
What do you mean she's doing
nudity type stuff, or
she's doing legit like OnlyFans shit?
Wow,
at the gym, yeah. And so it's always interesting to see where was she today, where will she be today. So they'll keep track of what's going on, and they'll be like, "Oh, she just posted. Maybe she's upstairs." I don't want to give away too much. Because I don't want.
Well, we know the gym has an upstairs now.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. I may just narrow it down.
You want you to give her a shout out.
Yeah, that may be. I don't know if I want to do that. I was even showing my wife. I'm like, look. She's like, oh my God, where'd you get? She goes, that's at the blank gym. I'm like, yeah, I know. So then I had to explain her. I'm like, yeah, I was like, this is like while we were there. So I told her the story. She thought it was funny, but holy shit, man. Making bank. Some of them girls are making an easy 20, 30, 40 grand a month.
Good God. We're in the wrong racket here.
We got two guys that go to my gym, and they're a couple, and they're good looking guys, and they're jacked. Like they look like really good, like men's physique, classic physique guys. And, they generate buco dollars.
Yep, exactly.
We're doing the wrong thing here. We're not doing this right, I think.
We're not good enough.
First, gym together. Me and Skip could do it.
We're not good. None of us are good looking enough to do the guy thing, because I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not. But why are gay guys? You are not attractive. You are no more attractive than I am, and I know I'm not attractive. No one is going to pay to see me naked, guaranteed. But why is it that gay dudes are so good looking? You see somebody and you go, God damn, he's really good looking. He can pull a lot of ass, and you go, I bet he's gay because he's that good looking. Because straight dudes aren't as good looking as that dude right there. My wife says the same thing. They're all good looking. I don't know.
All right, we got a question here from Billy Ryan. He says, and I'm going to read it the way he wrote it. He says, what does Andrew, S2H, or Skip recommend competitors to do with their nutrition during a health cruise phase? I kind of take this, I don't know, should I take this personal? Because I feel like he said, what does anybody but Scott McNally think about this?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. I'm kidding, Billy. He goes on a little bit though. He says, if looking to build muscle, do you have athletes drop calories down to maintenance for the 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, while they're not at a super physiological level, or keep the macros the same? It's been quite a conundrum for me, as I personally spend a lot more time cruising than I do blasting. Looking forward to the show. Thanks for not asking me, Billy.
Go ahead, Skip. I know Skip's going to say the same thing I will, so I'll let him say it.
Same thing. Let's see. So I'm going to think of what Scott would think. No. I'm a little thrown by the health comment because I don't know exactly what he means by that. But
when he's cruising dose.
That's kind of what I was thinking. If you're just cruising and you're not basically on cycle, so maybe you're on a TRT dose, or even if you're off, I myself tend to prefer, and there are obviously variables and factors that play into this, but I prefer to keep the calories as high as possible when you're not on, because dropping them while you don't have high levels of hormones and you're not on cycle, I think is counterintuitive. At the same time, you don't want to make your clients fat while they're, not on cycle or not on cycle. But with the added caloric intake comes recovery and more of an anabolic. If you're not going to have a high level of anabolics and you want to stay in as anabolic as you can, and calories will help you to do that. So it's not a good idea. I'd even go so far as to say that I don't even like to cut when people come off of cycles.
Yeah.
Unless we have to, because you want to maintain as much strength and muscle throughout that cruise phase that you can. And if that means adding a little bit of body fat, then sometimes that's the lesser of the evils. That's my approach typically. But like I said, there's other variables and factors in there, as well. But that's basically where I stand on that.
Is that what you were going to say, Skip or Scott?
Yeah. Other than when you first read the question, I thought he was going on a cruise, like on a ship.
Oh.
You said health cruise, but then you explain the rest of it. No, same thing. I mean, there's no need to. I think that kind of goes and coincides with people thinking if they're taking a gram a week and they drop to like 250 to cruise, that they're unable to grow muscle at that point. That's not the case. So, you're probably going to bring the food down some, but to come off and just drop to a maintenance or something, no. You'll probably work down, maybe switch to more fats, less carbs, something like that. Caloric intake similar, but no, you don't want to drop down to maintenance.
What about you, Andrew?
Well, I think we all agree that like anything in bodybuilding, it all depends on the person, right? And if you've been working with a client for a while, you have some good past experience and some good, notes or whatever. But generally, I look at this like, what do steroids do? Basically one thing: increase muscle protein synthesis, right? So when you're and that increased synthesis is leading to enhanced recovery. So I look at it more from a training standpoint. Like if someone was training 6 days a week, geared up, I'm probably going to act, and they have training day macros and they have rest day macros. My approach is probably going to be, let's pull 1 to 2 days of training back. Okay. Because you don't have that same recovery ability happening. So you're still getting this quote unquote the same nutrition. It's just without less of the training days in a sense. So I would say that is a net decrease in calories, but it's still geared towards what your recovery ability is, if that makes any sense to you guys.
And it's absolutely very important to know that when you're not on cycle or you drop to TRT type dosages, that your recovery isn't going to be the same. And if you don't change your training while you're on versus while you're off, you're screwing yourself one way or the other, because you can accomplish more with your training while you're on. And if you don't adjust back, then you're going to end up where you're more likely to find yourself overtrained. The recovery just isn't going to be the same while you're off. I completely agree with you.
Sure.
I tell a lot of guys, like, especially if they've only done a few cycles or whatever, they did their first contest prep and we just took them through like a post-show, kind of blast phase. I'm like, look, you're going to have to cut your training down to 3 to 4 days a week for at least 2 to 3 weeks, because you're going to feel like you got hit by a bus if you're going to keep training on this balls to the wall 5, 6 days a week. Like, you're literally like 3 or 4 days into it, you're not going to be able to get out of bed, and your joints are going to hurt, and then you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to very quickly get into an overtrained state. So I think, when looking at, the diet, the gear, like, you also have to take the training into account, and then all the other factors like rest and what the person does for work, like if they're a construction worker versus someone that sits behind a desk like a lot of us do. There's just so many factors, but I think generally pulling the training back is the right answer there. And in a sense, it's going to pull the calories back slightly, but not in a sense that it's going to affect your growth in a sense, basically.
Right.
Yeah. I'd say too, also when people say maintenance calories, I'd be real cautious on using one of those nifty calculators to, your lifestyle, metabolism. There's a lot of things that play a factor into how many calories and what kind of food you need.
Sure.
So just to arbitrarily go, hey, I'm X weight, X height, I'm going to do 1,900 calories a day. I think most people shortchange themselves when they use those simple formulas, that they're using that. So you got to be careful with that too.
Mm-hmm. All right. I've got one here. This is from the previous YouTube episode. By the way, guys, we got a bunch of comments on the previous episode. So thank you, everybody over at YouTube who helped to promote the show by, and like I said before, every time you comment, every time you like it, YouTube sees that interaction and it pushes the show up in the algorithm so that more people will see the show and we can, we can get in front of more people. So thank you guys very much.
And let me just paraphrase too for anybody. If you love to troll and you think you're getting under our skin, thank you still for promoting the algorithm, because your trolling benefits us. So keep saying fucked up shit behind that, name that doesn't have a picture. We love you. We love it.
And keep talking about Skip's melanotin use. We especially appreciate that.
Exactly.
Okay, so next question here. He says, "Hey man, maybe you could answer this on the next question for the next time. I'm on TRT for low T, and I'm having pretty bad response to testosterone. My blood work shows that I'm at 220, and a protocol of 50 to 60 milligrams every other day on trough days." And this is on multiple sources. So he's using UGL, he says. How would someone in my situation deal with this? Am I doomed to be pinning 500 to 700 milligrams per week of testosterone just for TRT?
And if someone just arbitrarily asked me that, I would tell them their gear is probably crap.
I know. I'm thinking
that's like 300 milligrams a week, but there's some other stuff in there too, though. I mean, I don't want to get the guy alarmed, but there could be some issues going on, inside, in the, hypothalamus, the thyroid, but I'd go with gear.
Did he say that?
He didn't mention it.
Is that total testosterone?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's free, I'd say you're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Total.
No, I'm sure it's total. I'm sure it's total.
And even though there could be problems, like you're saying, Scott, it's still more likely that the gear is fucked up, but it's just not good.
Say it's probably,
but he said multiple sources, but they are all UGL. But you would think at least he'd get a better response from one than another. At least
break the news to you. A lot of these sources just have different stickers.
So what is he? He's taking 50 to 60 every other day. So what? That's
300,
150 to 300 to 200.
250. Yeah, 250 or 250.
I guess I would tell him to bump it up 50 milligrams total for the week. Get your bloods done again, and see where you're at there. If it's still low like this, I'd be like, find a completely different source, dealer or something, and then run the experiment all over again back at about 200 mgs a week, because either that or there's some kind of binding issue maybe with the testosterone that's in your system. I don't know. That's just weird.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah,
but I think, like Skip said, you got bad gear, buddy.
I'll say you this: if you're buying from a place, your multiple choices may be the same choice with just a different label.
It's a good point. That's a very good point, especially if it's on the same. If you're going with different sources on the same website, you could damn sure run into that problem.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
But look, if your carrier roll is the same, bottle shapes and all that, if they happen to be all identical, you might be getting the same stuff just through different means.
So I would switch to a different provider and run the experiment over again and get your bloods done 2-3 weeks after trying a completely different source.
Yeah, because that much a week, you should be 800, 900, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if not higher. Shit, I've been running shit a long time, and if I'm running TRT at 210 or 220, I'm 1400, 1300. I'm fighting to stay under 1200, so I have to get down to 200 or less just to be underneath that 1200 cutoff. And I've been doing shit for a long time, so if my old ass needs it, someone who's younger likely, not always, but likely would respond equally as well, if not better.
Yeah, I'm about 1100.
And
one thing
on.
While he's getting his microphone back too, I think it's good to point out that I know Scott and I, S2H and I, we've always said there is too much attention paid to the total testosterone versus free testosterone, because the free testosterone level really is so much more important than the total testosterone, especially when you're dealing with TRT. I mean, it is with cycling too, but if you at TRT and you got a low free testosterone level, that Echo's throw would be bad. But you have a normal level that's free testosterone, but you have a normal level that's total testosterone, but a low free testosterone. Goddamn, you got to change some shit around, and that's another question and another discussion. But you're not getting anything out of it. Yeah, exactly.
With a 220 total, you're not going to have a great free anyway. Yeah.
Did you guys talk about me while I was gone?
Oh, his 220. Yeah, I agree with you. What's that, Scott?
Did you guys talk about me while I was gone? My headphones died. The battery died. I'm like, what the fuck? I can't hear him. What happened?
No, we didn't.
Friggin' powder.
Yeah, we didn't say anything. Nothing at all, Scott.
We just looked at the screen.
Where did he go?
All right. I wonder.
The question.
Okay. What did you figure out? Because I'm curious too. I don't know. This is a weird one.
Bad gear.
Bad gear.
Yeah. Likely.
And even if it's from different sources, if he's buying from the same person, they might just be labeling them in different bottles, and one brand is it, but it all came from the same place. So I think bad gear.
Yeah, and I wonder if he has done the lab work on a bunch of different gear, or he just felt kind of shitty, and then he did the lab work on one brand. Did he come back at 220 using that same dose on 3 different brands, or when he tested, was he just 220?
Yeah.
Because that could speak to just one brand being bad for sure.
Yeah, and also how long after his last injection did he test? Because there are some people that prescribe to wait 3 weeks to really.
Yeah, but he said he was taking it every other day. So I mean, depending on when he would do the blood draw, he's going to have a pretty stable level if he's dosing it every other day.
Yeah, take more.
All right, we got one from our good friend George White over in the UK. He says some good questions that he's got coming together. Let's see. What's your opinion on the assertion that 50 reps to failure is the same as 10 reps to failure? He says, I think that there is room for all rep ranges, but I think that people who do high reps often go 3 or 4 reps shy of failure. It just gets hard, while those in the lower rep range are most likely to go to actual failure. That's his thought. What do you guys think?
Run with it, Andrew.
Well, I mean, so first off, failure is like a ambiguous term in a sense, because like failure is only failure if you literally can't do it and you're in the midpoint of the rep and you can't move the bar, machine, whatever it is anymore. So, I mean, I guess using that line of thinking, I don't know, like 200 reps. All right, here's actually, I just read Bradley Schoenfeld's book, Principles of Hypertrophy, I think it's called. You guys seen that book? Mm-hmm. Second edition. I read the first one years ago, and I read the second one. And, he goes through like hundreds of studies in this stuff for various things like rest pause sets or 200 rep, not 200 rep, but super high rep sets versus super low rep sets. And here's what I pulled away from it. Just train really friggin' hard in whatever rep range you are going to hit it in, and try to get into that point where you don't have any real repetitions in reserve. 2 to 3 sets per workout, and you're going to improve. So I think that's kind of, and I felt like I knew that beforehand, because, and I don't know how you guys feel like what your favorite rep range is, but for me, I always just like hitting, my preferred is right around 8 reps when I'm doing like some power movements. I don't like to go anything lower than that because that injury risk starts to creep into my mind and I get a little scared. But then that in that same token though, I'm not afraid to do like the 20 rep, hack squats or the 20 rep squats or whatever you want to call them. So, but I don't think 200 reps makes much sense. That's cardio at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? I don't think you're hitting your type 2 fibers. I think you're really hitting those type 1 fibers. And while there is some room for growth there, it's not much. So,
yeah. I think the high rep training, and I know he specifically asked about to failure. So to answer to answer his question directly, 50 reps to failure versus 10 reps. What I will give him, or I will concede, is the higher reps to true failure are significantly harder physically and mentally than the lower repetitions. So if he's saying 50 reps, if it is true failure, there is no question that is some incredibly intense shit. I would even go so far as to say 20 reps to failure versus 10 reps, even though it's not as heavy of a weight. It takes more psychologically to actually do that. Not 20 reps, but 20 reps to failure.
Agree.
Where
completely.
you're eating it, or you just. Now, I will say, because you make a good point about that term being ambiguous, and I agree with you. But if you come out, let's say for the sake of conversation, we're squatting. If you come out on the 20th rep and it took you 7 seconds to close that rep, I'm going to give you failure on that one. You probably would too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you come away from something like that, you can't really tell your client, you didn't eat it. So technically you could have got another one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would accept that as failure. At the same time, I think that compound exercises in high rep ranges like that, even 20, whether it's 50, I think 50 is would probably be my threshold if I had to put something on, because even then you're getting up into rep ranges that are going to make you fail from a lung oxygen standpoint before the muscle itself would really want to fail. But I will tell you this, I do think that if your body's not used to it, it is a stimulus that your body has not seen, and it can produce growth. But I would not try to do that shit on a regular basis. You guys might not be old enough, but Tom Platz did that squat to maybe not to failure, but he did 50 reps at 315. And it was something that my training partner said. We were in our teens. He said, I got to go in. I got to do 225, 50 reps at 225. And you know me well enough. Y'all know me well enough. Those were not short reps. My training partner would not have been doing short reps. And that motherfucker did 50 reps. He was only like 16 or 17 years old at 225. And he was known for his legs anyway. And goddamn, it was painful to watch and to witness and to spot him. But basically, to give him props, everybody in that fucking gym, and it was busy, stopped what they were doing when they saw, and just were so enamored, like, when is this motherfucker going to stop? Yeah. And they were literally applauding a 16 or 17-year-old when he hit that. I think he was 17. But the point being, he didn't weigh but 160, 170 pounds, and he got him. Damn. He collapsed, whether it was melodramatic or not, trying when he took his first step forward to get back to the rack, because they were old school step up racks. So it wasn't, you know what I'm talking. So you had to take 2 or 3 steps to get it there, and literally, and I couldn't hold him. I mean, he just went down. But they're all applauding and everything else. Something like that. My point is, something like that is still a stimulus that the body can get hypertrophy from that and grow, but it's not something you can come around and do. And he wasn't going to do anything else. He came in, warmed up, did his 50 rep set, and left. And it was plenty because he was crippled for a fucking week.
I would also add that you probably couldn't sustain that type of an exercise like that week in and week out and expect long-term results. Like you said, it's a great, let's fuck shit up. Let's really stimulate it. And then, like you said, one exercise out, and probably don't pull that out of the bag again for another, at least a month or something like that. Absolutely.
Right. So going back to the guy's original question, go ahead, take it.
Well, he said something about the high rep guys can push out the extra 3 reps. The low rep guys don't. Well, I mean, if you got 135 pounds in the squat rack and you got to do it 50 times, even when you get, when your lactic acid builds up, you're winded, you can still handle the weight to re-rack it. When you have, 485 on your back and you're thinking about cranking out that one last couple of reps and you're going to crash and burn, you're more inclined not to do it. So I think the weight and the type of exercise makes a difference.
That's a good point. Yeah. Actually, speaking of you're talking about your buddy that did that 225 for 50. A couple years ago on Facebook, on one, maybe it was in Nate's group, Bodybuilding for Bodybuilders, but there was all these strength challenges or these squat challenges going around. Might have been started by Phil Viz or something. But did you guys see the one that Michaela Aycock did? You guys know who she is? She's the women's physique competitor.
She's wicked strong too, ridiculously strong.
And women's pro bodybuilder too. Yeah, she hack squats 7 plates a side.
She's nuts. Yeah.
But she did, and she's only 150 pounds, or even in shape, she's probably 135.
Or something. You know what? She's not a tall woman, first of all, and she has a petite structure, so it's not like she's this big burly human being.
She's very small jointed, and but anyway, so I think she squatted it had to have been like 135, and I think she did like 100 or something like that. It was like
shit.
something that like made you like, you're like, oh my God, she is still going. Like, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I think she did like 225 for somewhere close to 20 or something. So yeah, she something to look up and watch.
Mm-hmm.
We got one from Dan and Michelle Kennedy, our friends up in Canada. Best protocol for a serious injury, like a complete quad rupture.
Yikes.
Protocol. I mean, I guess first of all, go to the hospital and get it reattached, right?
Yeah, like are they post surgery, or is this like, oh, I just tore my quad the other day? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, how about this? I think this is going to be Dan. Dan, give us a little bit more insight on this, and we will get back to it. And we'll jump to another question while you do that. Let's see here. We had another one up here. Let's see. Well, we got questions everywhere, really. Here's another one from the group. Would orals be preferable over injectables when it comes to cholesterol issues? Could the elevated and stable steroid hormone levels throughout the day be what's causing most of the problems when it comes to lipids or cholesterol? If someone could keep the liver enzymes in check, would this be the way to go?
I'm going to say injectables are better than orals, regardless of what they're
all the way around. Yeah, I'm kind of. I want to make sure I understand the question right. Is that what they were asking?
The only caveat to that is if you have to take a lot of Aromadex, if that's what you're using for aromatase inhibitor, then that can kind of go the other direction on you a little bit. But I would say I can't see any reason why any oral would be better than an injectable.
Yeah, I mean well, we all look at clients' blood work, right? I mean, when you have someone running, test and another anabolic versus a pre-contest cycle, last
Winstrol,
5 weeks, when people's blood work is the worst, it's from the Winstrol, it's from the Halo, it's from the anti-E's that you're adding in. What's that?
Anadrol.
Oh, the Anadrol, or the Super Draw, or all the draws. Like, that's when the blood work's always the worst. Liver enzymes are like 2 to 3 or 4 times what they should be, and the HDL is like 13 or whatever. I think, it's all. I always try to steer people away from the orals in the off season, at least as much as possible.
Yeah, I kind of thought that I misunderstood the question, because he is. So I understand he's asking if orals would be better than injectables for cholesterol. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I certainly don't want to make it sound like a shot to the guy who asked the question, because I don't mean it that way. But orals just have such a profound impact, such a dramatic impact on cholesterol levels versus injectables. I guess I was just surprised with it. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, that's what we're here for, Skip. We're here to educate,
But I just want to make sure that I understood it right, because I was thinking maybe I didn't understand the question right. That's more of what I was saying. I just thought maybe I misheard it.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan's back. So he says that it happened on Thursday. The surgery was Friday. And what else does he add here? He's in a brace now and has to wear it for 6 weeks. First doctor visit is in 3 weeks. First of all, dude, we're really sorry to hear this, man. That's a rough one. You guys take it away.
Growth.
What can we do?
Take growth.
Yeah, I was going to say growth, BPC. And I would actually get in the gym and I would train that other side.
Yes.
And I know some people say that it's like counterintuitive, but I think we've probably all seen the studies, or we know people anecdotally. Like, you guys probably remember Cade Zook. He won the North American super heavyweight class in 2019. He had torn, I believe it was his tricep completely, like 9 months before that show. And every day he went into the gym at like 4:30 in the morning and did his normal stuff as much as he could do, training his legs, training his arm, on hammer strength machines, the one side he could train. And the day of the show, you couldn't tell really what side he had torn. So I think a lot of people think if you still keep training that other side, you're going to get ahead on that side or whatnot. But it just shows that there is a systemic effect of training to the whole body that can help you maintain the musculature that you have on that injured side.
Dude, to back you up, to back you up, Andrew, Scott Stevenson just said this on the last episode of Muscle Minds. I think it was in episode 98. But check this out. I'm going to steal Scott's graph. Look at Scott. Now we're all bright and we're doing science too, just like you.
Wow. So then I'm right. And if Scott said it, then
Yes. So this was measuring strength, and they did a thing where they trained one arm, and look at that. There was a strength improvement on the other arm, that top figure there, at the top of the figure. So he talked more about it, but I just wanted to use an opportunity to put up a chart so that we can look all smart like Scott. But yeah, he had just talked all about that.
Better words. He probably could use better language to describe it. But
of course.
Basically, it works.
Of course.
It's a Scott thing.
The way you explained it, Andrew, everyone understood.
Yes.
When Scott talks, sometimes. Right, exactly. When Scott talks, sometimes his words are a little bit longer.
More syllables.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you were saying
I get back to the gym as fast as you can to train that opposite side leg as much as you can, and still train your upper body as best you can, and try to do everything you can in terms like Scott said. Add growth hormone if you're not. I have good experience with BPC 157 in high doses when I have injuries, tears, and whatnot. I do think it works. I'd also take some collagen, add a good deal of collagen to your diet. I think BPC doesn't work as well unless you are adding a good dose of collagen into the UC2 collagens, particularly. And try to keep your body stress free so that you can recover otherwise as fast as possible. I think we all know too, like bodybuilders when they get an injury or a surgery or whatever, and the doctor says, "Oh, you're not going to be back in the gym for 8 weeks." It's like, I'll see you in 3 weeks, dude. Like, I'll be in there lifting something in 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Because we're healthier, I think because we're healthier, we're so more in tune with our body, with what's going to hurt and what's smart or what's not smart to do. And we know our limitations a lot more than the average person. And I'm sure the average person, they do need to take that 8 weeks off. But, like when my client has let's say, they tore their tricep or something like that, or a bicep, and the doctor said, "Oh, you can't go to the gym for 4 weeks." I'm like, listen, after you get past the first week where we're not worried for, strokes or things like that with blood clots and whatnot. Yeah. Blood clots. We're going to get you doing cardio 20 minutes a day or something like that. I want to get you moving again because I don't want you to get complacent, because I think also it's going to help keep their spirits up, for one thing. Like, they have a plan of action. Okay, week 1, we're back in the gym. We're just going to do cardio. Week 2, we're going to do our legs twice a week, and we're going to do 1 day of upper body for what we can, single arm on that other side, and then just progress it from there, and on top of that, make sure you're doing your physical therapy, make sure you're doing your stretches, all those things that you need to do to make sure you're going to get better. If the doctor said 8 weeks, let's see if we can't cut that down to 6 weeks or 5 weeks, so.
Yeah. When you say high doses of BPC, what are you talking?
So for an acute injury, I would do 2 milligrams a day.
Okay.
Like 1 milligram in the morning, 1 milligram in the evening, for like 2 weeks, like 10 days, 2 weeks. And then I cut it down, to like 1 milligram a day for, I think for like another 2 weeks. And I take 500, mics a day anyway, just out of a, prevention standpoint. And
Okay.
I do say, like, I do have seen that, like, I don't get little micro tears when you're benching and you get like a little pec tear or because I've been prone to like pec tears, bicep tears, stuff like that in the past. So I do find that taking 500 mics a day helps you, and maybe it's psychosomatic, but it's worth spending the money that I do on it. So
Right.
That's cool. Yeah, that's higher than I've gone. I've gone to 1 milligram a day has been my high end. I felt like that worked pretty good, but I mean, I wouldn't see a problem with it. Now, when it first came out, or when we first started talking about it in bodybuilding, we always said, hey, you should put it close as possible to the site that was injured. And then from there, they said, no, it doesn't really matter. You could do it. It goes systemic. What are your thoughts there?
I think because I am a little, let's call it bodybuilding superstitious. If I, have, if the skin or the area that I want to put it in is exposed, I'll put it there, but I'm not going to like take my pants off somewhere. And like, if I have to put it in my knee, like I'll just put it in my abdominals or something. But, because here's the thing, like everything runs systemically anyway, right? Like once you put something in your body, it's going to go in your bloodstream and then it's going to travel in circulation. So I do think it doesn't really matter that much,
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Andrew, send Scott the bill for those 2 questions because those are for him, he asked.
Yeah. I did the systemic, I thought about it for a while. So when I first started, I went to the site, and then I went like, yeah, just put it anywhere. It's going to go systemic. And now you used a good word, superstition. Out of superstition, now if it's like, well, it's my shoulder, I better put it at my shoulder just to be careful, just to be safe.
So I do that. So like to be, my educated mind says it doesn't matter where you put it. You can put it in your toes if you want to. But my superstitious bodybuilding mind says, well, okay, I have a partial lat tear. I'm putting it in my lat every day.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, I know True Nutrition, our sponsor, has J-Flex. I use that every day. That has undenatured type 2, that UC2 collagen, and I use their hydrolyzed beef collagen. So I know, Dan's in Canada, so he's not going to be ordering True Nutrition. But for anybody else, I think that those are both great products. And Dante said, he's developed the products he has because those are things that he would want to use, things that he does use. I think it's a great product overall because you hit all those bases. I've talked about that before, but it is nice to hear someone else come on, though, and talk about UC2 as well. Let's see what else we have here. We've got a bunch more still. There was a question about Novadex somewhere in here. I'll see if I could. There it is. James Hastings. Are there any negative long-term side effects to using Novadex?
Clotting.
Did you say clotting? No.
Yeah, blood clots. I've seen that in the literature.
It's been shown to lower your IGF, but I don't think it does it that much.
Well, anyone that's usually taking Novadex is usually pumping GH anyway, so. Right? No, but I think the biggest long-term risk is the risk of a stroke from the clotting factors. I do know, especially if you have that genetic, what do you call it, mutation that causes your blood to clot more anyway. If you do have that, which you would probably know, you should be on another medication that is like a blood thinner, or maybe not be using Novadex.
And I've heard that, but I don't know to what degree the increase or the potential increase is for the clotting. I've never heard whether it's significant, whether it's mild, whether it's not that
I think
common.
It's mild.
Okay.
I think it's mild, and I think we talk about it because it was just one thing that one factor that they looked at in a particular study. Yeah, I mean, They might do other things that we're not aware of because it just hasn't been in the literature. But if you do some reading on Novadex, that is one possible negative that does pop up.
Right.
I mean, breast cancer patients take it for long periods of time, so I don't really know. I want to say, I think if I remember, it's more prevalent in males to have blood clotting from Novadex than females.
That's actually a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong on that, but I think I'm right.
No, you're right. Actually, I should have mentioned that.
Well, and if you pile that on top of cycles that are increasing your blood viscosity anyway, you would think that our demographic would be at a higher risk than an average male that was using, which obviously an average male typically wouldn't use it, and I understand that point too. But with the added, risk of the higher viscosity, RBCs, hematocrit, hemoglobin stuff with what we do, that would likely increase it, I'm sure.
I just want to take a minute to point out again that comment from Serbia. Because he said, he said, hello from Serbia, we drive around the city and listen to your station. I just think that is so cool. That blows my mind. Skip's being pumped up.
I got range of the tower for a signal.
We had one.
No, I'm sorry. I keep getting sidetracked. I don't know. You guys have, Scott, you've got kids. Andrew, do you have kids? I don't.
No.
Okay. I hear sirens and ambulance and I can see them from where I'm sitting. And when you have kids, I know my daughter's on her way home from her boyfriend. So I'm sidetracked because I'm like, she's supposed to be on her way. And I don't know. My brain works like that. So maybe I'm not the only one, but I've been sidetracked.
I'd look at it this way. The ambulance would be going towards the hospital, not towards you guys, right?
Right.
So I think you're in the clear is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Or to the accident. I'm not sure. She's not here, I guess is what I'm saying.
Go check it out.
Anyway, I got a text back from her, so now my brain is clear again.
Good. Okay, so this is kind of a follow-up from last week. We talked about the triceps. We talked about, Skip, you were saying that you didn't feel comfortable with a tricep movement being done when the tricep isn't in a full extension. So
maybe not necessarily a full extension, but when that angle with the upper arm and the torso is more closed, it makes me nervous because it puts more pressure, or it makes the tricep tendon, the elbow itself, it puts it in more of a vulnerable position, in my opinion. But I always have to do this, but I do this out of respect because, and I've used Dusty as an example before, so now I'm going to use.
Can we ask the question?
Yeah,
you didn't even ask the question yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to disagree with something and then have it sound disrespectful. Go ahead.
All right, let's at least clue people in before you go off on your rant. Okay, so he says, "Hi Scott, I have a follow-up question from BSG episode, the last BSG episode. What's Skip's take on the JM press, considering that the elbows close their angle toward the torso, and they are still safe since you are flat? Are they still safe since you are flat and not sitting up?" His whole point on the elbows closing in made total sense to me, and I could actually feel what he means. So the JM press, this is JM from Elite, who's also, I guess, one of your fellow Elite FTS guys. He has. Would you call this a bench press movement? How would you?
Well, it's like a tricep extension. It's a skull crusher. I mean, the best way to explain it is it's more of a skull crusher, bringing the bar down, to your face, your face, your mouth area, your chin area, that sort of thing. Yeah, neck. The point is a typical one would be, right about the eyes of the forehead, which I'm not still entirely fond of. The point is that bringing it down closer closes that angle that I'm not a big fan of. And here's the thing. Like I said, this is where I put this disclaimer on it. First, JM is incredibly intelligent, well-educated, tons and tons of experience, and he moves weights that half of that weight would tear my tricep tendons clear from the bone, and any other mere mortals that are listening as well. He's in a different league. So in that sense, and he even says in his video that he doesn't warn about it, but he does basically say, and I'm paraphrasing, that he had a lot of strength in his tricep tendons prior to coming up with this exercise, and that they don't bother his elbows for that reason, but that if you don't have that strength, that you really need to be careful in building the strength in that exercise. I still stand by the fact that I think I don't think it's a bad exercise. What I'm saying is I think it's an exercise that puts the elbow, specifically the tricep tendon, in a much more vulnerable position to be, even if not injured, irritated. I call it itis, or old man itis, issues with inflammation. It's not an angle that I would want to use or that I would condone and say, yeah, that's a great idea. It makes me nervous. But similarly, Dusty Henshaw does his tricep, his skull crushers in a, maybe not a similar fashion in the sense that they're not a straight up JM press, but his angle is closed too. And it just makes me nervous because it's he moves big fucking weights, but he can move big weights and he has tendons that the rest of us don't have too. I just think for the average person, the large majority of people, if they keep that angle open, just 90, even if you're going to keep it at 90 degrees, okay, I won't argue it. But if it's even open slighter than 90 or more than 90 degrees, even if it's slight, I think that lowers the risk of vulnerability or the risk of injury if it's open versus if it's closed.
Okay. I'll see if I can get this video too, so I can pop that up for the YouTube so that people can kind of see what it is. It kind of reminds me of a cross between a skull crusher and a close grip bench. The way I see it.
I would say that's probably a good way to explain it without the visual. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. If you were taking a close grip bench up like to the top part of your, your neck, basically. Yeah.
Skip, have you ever tried that exercise with kettlebells? So you're not coming.
No, I haven't. I've seen it.
Like here, you drop the elbow.
Use kettlebells.
Right.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So
I haven't.
Actually, because I won't ever do the JM press with a barbell, but with the kettlebell, when your elbows are feeling good, there's no tendonitis or anything going on. It actually feels really good, a really good connection. And I don't think there is that same still risk of injury with the angle being closed off like you're talking about, but I don't feel it's the same as when you're holding a flat bar like this.
Yeah,
If you get
that
what I'm
may
saying.
be.
Because your wrist is
And-
allowed to torque a little differently.
Sure, exactly. And even position of that exercise in your tricep workout. Let's say this. Do you do triceps after chest and shoulders when they're very warm and they're ready to go? Or do you come in cold to do triceps and biceps and it's going to be your first exercise that you're opening with? I mean, there's so many variables and factors in there. Do you have a history of having, sore elbows to where you can't do other things like overhead dumbbell extensions because they don't feel good on your elbows versus those people who really don't have much of a problem with elbows, whether it be tendonitis or any type of pain or injury or anything? There's a lot of variables there. So we talk about this often. It's difficult to give, we know that the listenership is this broad field of people from all different backgrounds. At the same time, where everything is always going to be individual, we have to err on the side, or this is how I approach it anyway. I look at it more as my response as being what would benefit the majority of people listening. So that's why there are those individual factors, and I completely agree with you. And the majority of people, just specific to this question and this answer, I still feel that if that angle is open, there's less of a vulnerability. Now, I could probably walk in and finish triceps with that movement, and I'd be like, oh my God, I haven't done this angle before. My triceps would blow up, and I'd be fucking in love with them. Another thing JM said, and I think this is important too, and I'm glad I didn't forget this. He was talking about the biceps being kind of a cushion. So, in that bottom position, if they're right. Here's the thing, though. You got to have big enough arms to have biceps to be a cushion. Yeah. So if your arms aren't big enough, you don't have the cushion, then you could be even in more of a vulnerable position than someone who does have bigger arms and can use that to their advantage. So again, another factor. There's just a myriad of factors here. And I don't do the kettlebells because I've never been to a gym that has a ton of kettlebells. I don't know why. I've been to tons of gyms, but I never end up with a variety of kettlebells.
You just don't see them because you're not looking for them. I think that's what it is. You're not a kettlebell guy.
It's really important that you find the pink ones and you use those.
Right.
Dude,
I got a pink one right over here.
That competition kettlebell that's pink is like 60 pounds. It's crazy.
Oh shit! No kidding.
Yeah. I didn't know this because obviously I don't do. But I was at a strongman gym and they had different colors. And the pink one, they were color coded in some way. But yeah, the pink ones were like 60 at this place. It was nuts. We've got another training question though. I love this shit. We got some good training stuff here. When training legs, is there good benefit to using heavy bands like on leg press or hack squats with weights? I mean, I think the answer is yes, but I just wanted a chance to talk about bands. I think it's fun.
Yeah, resistance, but
yeah, I mean, it's adding some accommodating resistance. I do like a reverse banded hack squat in the sense, where it is going to take the weight off at your most vulnerable point when you're at the lowest, when your knees are under the most pressure, the most force. So I do like, and that's something I think we've seen a lot of people start doing, especially in the last 2 to 3 years.
Dude, I was going to say that, man. Would you agree that reverse banded hacks are the most popular leg exercise right now?
Oh, easily. Yeah. Well, I think because you're seeing so many guys that are pretty good getting past, say, 30 years of age that we probably all follow, and they're not hitting the squats the same way they were 25, 20, I mean, for me to squat, it's like, okay, the stars have to align. I had to do a special dance, I did the 30 minutes of rolling my glutes and, all that stuff. And it's like things have to feel, the back has to feel right, all that. So, but, the hack squat, you warm up a little bit, you just keep adding more weight, typically, as long as you don't have major knee injuries. Yeah. So I agree, it definitely is the most popular leg exercise. Plus, it looks cool to put 7 or 8 plates aside on, on something. Like, I'm moving weight, But it's the same reason why people use those, all the hammer strength stuff these days. Some of those machines, you can put 5, 6 plates on and dangle a 25 on the handle, and you're like, oh man, that guy's going hard, Meanwhile, you get over there and you see grandma's doing 2.5 plates on it, and you're like, okay. Everything doesn't have much weight to it. But
come on, you're ruining my gig, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Do you ever do reverse band squats?
Yes.
I like those.
Yeah, I like reverse bands. I mean, I like incorporating bands and stuff. Absolutely. I do think you run into an issue if you do them like every single time. I do think you're going to see some joint wear and tear that does feel a little different than regular wear and tear, and I don't exactly know why. I think maybe it's just that force overload as you are extending the repetition, or you're moving through the movement pattern. It just hits a little differently. But I like to incorporate them for different things too, like hamstring curls, leg extensions sometimes. What else? Even like you want a really good tricep burn, like do some tricep press downs using some bands, and do like that 15 to 20 reps, and that'll light your triceps. Like and I have people that have a hard time having a really good tricep connection use a band exercise to really get them going on the first exercise rather, and that'll light them right up for almost anybody. But I do think people have taken the bands and the chains and the special squat shoes and all this training equipment stuff a little bit too far. At some point it's like, let's just stick to the iron and let's progress with that for a while, but that's just my take. I was at the gym today and I was like, man, this kid's got like 5 different shoes, one for squatting, one for deadlifting, and one for training chest, like all in the same bag. I'm just kind of like looking, I'm like, and then he's got like, we all have equipment in our gym bags. We have our elbow and our wrist straps and stuff, but he had like, I don't know, it looked like, it was like a hockey bag.
Yeah.
Like a hockey, it was a double bag that big. And I'm like, you got a body in there or something?
It's like the guy with 135 on the bench, and he's got like 3 bands going 4 different directions. It's like, bro, how about you just do 135?
I found for me, being training from home, it has its limitations. I don't have Skip's 100 machines. You walk into that new gym, you've got 100 different angles to hit back. But I've had to, get more creative, and I found that when I'm doing so I got back into barbell bench, which I hadn't done forever. Part of it being my shoulder had so many issues, bicep tendon. I got the Elite FTS shoulder saver pad, and that felt pretty good. Like it made a good difference. But then for me, like the gold is I use not a reverse band, but like a straight band. And I've worked up to the green. I don't know what they're called. They're still like one of the mini bands. It's the thickest band you can get. That's still the little one, But I use that to add resistance as I'm pressing, along with that shoulder saver pad. And because my shoulder it's going to get the most irritated down at the bottom, I can only handle so many plates on the bar before it's just as hard at the bottom as it is at the top with the plates. You know what I mean? But with that band, it's like my sweet spot where with that combo between the Elite shoulder saver pad and that band, I can grind as hard on that as I can on my dumbbell press, which is that's my favorite lift. That's a lift that that's my best lift for training chest. And now I have like my second best lift. And if it wasn't for the band, it wouldn't quite scratch that itch. You know what I mean? Quite the same. So
you get a slingshot.
You told me about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what do you feel about that slingshot? Because I see some of these guys that like put 3 plates on there and they get like 5, and then I'm like, I know you can't even squat 225 or bench 225.
Well, I mean, it depends which one you get, but I tell you what, a slingshot puts all the weight in your chest. I mean, you'll get the sickest chest pumps from a slingshot. You got to be careful though when you use one at first. You need a spotter, because you could lift the weight off and dump it right on your lap. Because they're a little. It's like basically wearing the very top front half of a pressing shirt. I mean, you can. At first, it feels a little weird coming off, so I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, Scott, you can do it at home alone on Instagram, so I can watch as you crush your waist. But it kind of wants to make the bar want to travel down in front of you more. But yeah, dude, I get the sickest pumps from it.
Huh.
It's great if you have shitty shoulders too.
Scott has a powerlifting background though, so my response to that is when you're a power lifter versus bodybuilding, you're benching differently anyway. And I don't like the elbow position with the slingshot. First, I think it's gear that is. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan on principle. If there is a reason, whether it be a shoulder issue or something like that, then I understand that, and to each their own, and anybody can use whatever they want. But when you're trying to bench more in a bodybuilding style with the elbows flared, I just think it's counterproductive. I think it locks you.
It doesn't flare your elbows.
It doesn't. It tucks them, and that's why I say that's not as much of a benefit from a bodybuilding standpoint as it is.
Get a slingshot, Scott. Don't listen to him. Get a slingshot.
And my advice is just fucking save your money and don't even bother with it. So pick
Skippy,
one.
You could probably bench 225 with a slingshot.
I might be able to, but my numbers on my bench are not a concern.
All right. We got one more here. Best, and then I got to tell you, too, we got a lot of gun feedback from the last episode. S2H is, Andrew watches the show. He watches this podcast, so he knows that S2H is a gun guy. And we got a lot of gun feedback. I had maybe another gun question, but before we do, Matt asks us, best health and wellness supplements to take for a healthy bodybuilding lifestyle.
Guns.
I think it depends. Yeah.
Iron? No, lead.
I think it depends on is there a particular health issue you're trying to fix? I mean, if you're just talking about like general supplements, it's like, okay, I mean, I have things that I ask all my clients to take when they're, running heavy stuff. And then we also have things I ask them to take when they're cruising and then just general things I have people that aren't running anything take, like, fish oil, if they have digestive issues, I want them to take particular digestive supplements, or we'll try them out at least. But, I don't even like to recommend necessarily a multivitamin. I'd rather try to hit them up with good nutrients, fruits, vegetables in the diet, or supplement with like a greens formula. But, I think there's some people where I'm like, just take fish oil. We're going to cover all the other health stuff from your nutrition plan. And maybe I'm forgetting something, but maybe, I don't know. What do you think, you other guys?
I used to be big on, I would have an arsenal of things that I took and one day, for no good reason, I just took both of the baskets and threw them in the fucking trash. And I haven't seen, it doesn't mean that blood work tells you everything, but I haven't felt anything different. I haven't taken, and I'm not kidding when I say I just don't take anything. I don't take a multivitamin. I don't take fish oil, and I haven't seen any changes in my blood. Now, there are a couple things that I have thought, okay, I wouldn't mind keeping the vitamin K in there. And, the things that on paper look really good for heart health over the long haul. Vitamin D, I'm always good with vitamin D, and I tell most people that it is incredibly important for your immune system, but I don't have that much of a problem with it because every time I go to the doctor, my doctor pats me on the back and says he wishes everybody had the vitamin D levels that I do.
Nice.
Now,
nice.
I'm sure I have melanoma and I'm going to die in the next 3 months or so when it gets to my spine and major organs, but my vitamin D levels are pretty good. So, I just didn't notice anything different. I'm not telling everybody to take their stuff and throw it in the trash. I'm just saying what I did with myself. That was a couple of years ago. I just got tired of all, and I get it all for free. It's not like I pay for it, but then I look and I think, God, if people had to pay for this shit and there isn't much of a difference, or I didn't notice a difference, I have a hard time telling people, okay, take this. Here's your list of good things. Typically what I do is when they come to me and they tell me what they're taking, a lot of times people, when they come to us, do have a pretty good idea and they're taking pretty good shit. Like they've done a little bit of research. They've done their due diligence. Now there are other times where they're just taking 40 things and they don't need it. And it might be overkill, but rarely do I see something where I say, you know what, these are just a waste. Don't bother with these. If they have a good protocol and they're comfortable taking those things, I typically tell them, I see no issues with the supplements that you're using. If you feel that they're beneficial, continue to use them. Okay. And that's where I am a lot of times on things like that.
Well,
yeah,
what about when you say you're looking at?
Oh, go ahead. Okay, no, so I had 2 full cabinets for years, and I just threw them away. I didn't use the stuff.
Well, what were you saying about that? Well, I was first going to say, during prep, you better believe I'm taking my 6 of these and my 3 of those, or, especially when you get towards the end there, when you're like, oh, man, I feel my liver's, falling out the side,
Exactly, yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say, so when you're looking at, say, client blood work and, you see, their RDW's off or MCH is off, and you're like, okay, so this probably means that they have, a B12 or a folate deficiency. Would you recommend them to take that, or would you just say...
Oh, when something jumps out like that completely. Okay. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were saying, I don't believe the supplements do anything, or if you were saying, if there's a specific issue, let's go and try to fix it. And you're saying the latter.
No, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And True Nutrition, I'm glad that you clarified because Dante would not appreciate me having that stance, even if I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
because
all supplements
over the
suck. They're
years,
horrible.
I've got the majority of my supplement knowledge in terms of the health aspect of this thing from Dante's posts and from, his Instagram and just being like, hey, what do you think of this? And he'll send you back 3 studies that he's already read from like 2 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Andrew makes a good point of, because I've been asked that a couple times lately, like what multivitamin, what's a good multivitamin? And in the reality of it, it's like multivitamin is going to give you like a little sprinkle of everything. But if you were to say have a low vitamin D level, the vitamin D you're getting from that isn't going to fix it, So it's like, I agree. I feel like Target and Skip, you mentioned D, that's one I think probably you're a rarity then, that you have such good D levels because, and don't make a dick joke. I'm not trying to set you up for that, Skip. I know it's in there somewhere, vitamin D, but
okay. I didn't know where you were going. I'm like,
I was just waiting. I know you, and I was like, he's gonna say something dick related here eventually. If I say, Skip in the D, enough times, but D gets low. Like we get depleted as anabolic users, even guys on TRT. It's something that it gets quickly depleted for us. Mine gets in the tank. I've told the story before that I thought my thyroid was low post contest. Also, I'd been prepping from February through November, and after the show I just didn't feel good and I'm like passing out and stuff. I've told that story on this show, and I thought it was like thyroid or something. Thyroid is fine. It took a long time. Eventually I found out D was it, and the second I took it, like that same day, I felt energized. So I know Scott Stevenson said that he had wondered if it was also related. His D levels went low while prepping. So there are those things. So I'm a big fan of, if you need something, it's there to take. But that's not like we should all take, obviously Skip doesn't need to take vitamin D.
But in your case, let's just be clear, you weren't getting enough D. So when you got more D, then you were back to your okay. I mean,
Skip. Sure exactly, Skip.
Just making sure I understand and everybody else understands. That's all.
I just had to let you know I was setting you up. That's what it came down to.
Fair enough.
All right. I think that's all we got, but I did want to talk guns. We gotta talk some guns. That's like the thing we do now, I think.
Pew pew.
So I'm still fascinated by this idea. Andrew, S2H taught us how to shoot someone through a windshield.
Okay.
The bullet actually.
I might have missed that.
I gave you the deflection of the bullet through the windshield.
Yeah. Teach us something else.
At a particular angle, like it goes off at a 30-degree angle or that kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. You got
like the front windshield. If you're shooting out, it's going to go up. If you're shooting in a front windshield, it's going to go down. But there's an angle of attack. What your angle is, your point of aim, and all that can vary. But in general, if you shoot out of a front windshield, it's going to go up. The round's going to go up. If you shoot in, it's going to go down. It's going to vary. If it's a European vehicle, like a BMW or something, you're going to get more deflection.
So teach us something else about guns, Scott. We want to learn. I don't know. I wouldn't be asking if I knew. If I knew, then I wouldn't have to ask you.
Are you a firearm owner, Scott McNally?
I am. Yes. I'm working on getting my carry and concealed weapons permit. Detroit's very slow. We don't have like a really good public service system here, so I literally have an appointment in September.
So that's why you come here and get a non-resident license.
I'm thinking about it. Go down and shoot some guns with you for a weekend. Yeah. Get my license. Teach us something. What do you got for us? What's on the? I saw you shooting silencers.
Suppressor, yeah.
Oh.
Don't shoot the steel target that's 8 feet to my left while I'm standing down there.
What happened?
See this right here?
You're shitting me.
Spall.
You got ricochet, huh?
It's spall, yeah. Jacket spall.
What does that mean?
Somebody put round down range while you were standing 8 feet from
8 to 10 feet to my left of me. I was stapling the target up.
You're kidding.
Oh my God.
I got it in the back of my head. It's not the first. I mean, it's the first time I've had somebody do that close to me. But I mean, I've gotten spalled before.
Did you like?
What was his response to that? Yeah, no shit, right?
Oh, I'm pretty calm. Yeah.
Well, that's just
no,
like
it was a her.
101.
Oh, it was her. Okay.
It's at a private place, and the person shouldn't even been there. So, you know, yeah. But I don't know. What do you want to know?
I don't know. Teach us.
Green
something.
tips. Okay, I'll give you one because we had this debate, or not a debate, but somebody asked me this the other day about green tips. Green tips are awful for shooting people with.
What's a green tip?
It's an M855. It's the round the Army used, Marine Corps used up until they came out with the 855A1, or they actually had a round between that. But it's a steel core penetrating round. A lot of people say it's armor piercing. It's technically not. It'll pierce like very thin steel, like car doors and stuff, or soft armor. But they're not good for shooting people because they don't have any expansion. People talk about rounds going through and through, like through somebody and coming out. The green tips, one of the rounds more notorious for that. So people carry them thinking they're great defense rounds, and they're really not. Anecdotally, seeing people get hit with like 10, 12 of them, and they just don't. I mean, unless you're shooting through vehicles or doing something you need to penetrate, like very light armor, steel walls maybe, like drywall, that kind of stuff. But they're just not good rounds. A lot of people carry them and think they're really good, and they're not.
What's this mean? Billy Ryan had a question for us. Does S2H know the percentage of dumbasses that messed their thumb up the first time handling a firearm by the slide?
Yeah, so slide bite. Yeah, I'd say, it's pretty prevalent. I saw a guy about 2 months ago slide cut. So what they do is when they build their grip, they put their weak side thumb behind on their hand here. Can you see my hands?
Yeah.
Like back here. So like some people will shoot a revolver like that. So the weak side thumb, I'm right-handed, is behind the slide on top of their strong hand right here. I saw a guy.
Oh, yeah.
The slide came back, cut him all the way to the bone, and cut the tendon in his thumb.
You're kidding.
No, he's bleeding like a stuck pig. Yeah, because I had to fix him up.
You're kidding. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common with two types of people. One that's just never shot, and the people they're shooting with don't pay attention and don't know any better. So sometimes people do that. Or you're really like old timers that shot wheel guns, revolvers back in the day. Because that was a grip that's used by some, 6-shooter revolver shooters.
Huh.
And so it's usually like some really old dude or like just somebody who's totally new. But once you get bit once, you kind of learn your lesson.
We got it. We're literally getting gun questions now. We can't do a bunch
prevalent.
We can't do a bunch of gun stuff, but I'll take one more from Ryan Charles. Would S2H recommend an M&P Shield or a Glock 43 for a female EDC?
Okay, I'm a Glock guy, but I don't particularly care for the 43X for me because I got pretty big hands. And it's a slim fit gun. It's a little snappy too. I mean, main thing is the gun fits her hand. That means her fingernails, when she grips the pistol grip, when you turn the gun in, you can see your fingernails on that side of the pistol grip, so your fingers get all the way around the pistol grip, so you can get a full grip. To be honest with you, if I had to choose between the two, I'm not a Smith & Wesson guy really, but the Shield's not a bad shooting gun. The only bad part is it's not the easiest gun to rack. It's got a pretty stiff slide. So, if she's got pretty good strength and you can show her how to, get leverage, push, pull on it, it's not a big deal. I'm not a SIG guy, but I think the 365 is better than both of them.
Okay.
For the way it shoots, it has a tungsten guide rod in it, so it's a little heavier in the front for a small gun. It depends how big she is and how she wants to carry. If she wants to carry on her person, on her body, the Shield's quite a bit bigger than the 43X. I actually like the 43 if you put the Vickers or any of the Artarian Tactical 2 or 3 round extensions on it, so you can get a full grip on the pistol grip. I think the 43 is a better shooting gun than the 43X.
It's crazy.
Or the 48. You can go with the 48 too. It's a better gun than the 43X. It's got a 1/2 inch longer barrel.
Skip, I think we're getting more people asking questions now than they did earlier in the show. Skip,
hey,
we got a question, Skip, though, last week on the YouTube. What was the name of that buffet you went to?
Oh, the Circle.
One that cost $1,000.
It was called what?
The Circle at the Breakers.
At the Breakers, huh?
In Palm Beach, yeah.
What do you got going on? What's going on with your training? Anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah, I just I don't do this very often, but I just took 4 days off, threw my hands up. You know that meme where it's like "fuck this shit," and then they bend over and they pick up the papers and go, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I didn't do the I'm kidding part." It's just been a chaotic, out of control week. I had to get money to my son because he's buying a car in Colorado. I'm anxious about it because he's 20. I don't want him to get ripped off. There was just a lot of shit. I'm so busy right now that when there's nothing else going on, everything fits perfectly. And then when something small, like my daughter comes into town with her husband to visit, things just get thrown. I have to. I got to revamp my system here. I got to get more. My structure was falling apart the last couple of weeks, and it just kind of came to a head this week. And part of it was I was whining, complaining about little aches and pains. So I did what I don't normally do, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm out of here," and took the last 4 days off, and haven't other than my client work and bodybuilding stuff that I'm obligated to. I haven't done anything with my training, my diet, nothing. I just been rolling along for the last 4 days. I'm back at it tomorrow, but the point is I knew I needed to change some shit around. It became chaotic, and I shelved it.
You'll probably feel a lot better too, having had a few days off.
It's funny that you would think that, and I told my wife, I laughed and said, I am now more anxious out of my routine and fucked around not being in the gym than where I thought it would be this little bit of a break where I could kind of gather my thoughts, get my system down, and now I'm going to be sitting here tonight getting everything ready for the week so that I can I need a couple more hours prior to I don't have my system down. I haven't been, we haven't been up here very long in West Palm. And with me having to commute now to train clients, because I've only been training clients for like the last 6 months. And now that I'm so busy with both, I'm really kind of at my limit. And when you do that, you have to make sure that everything is structured and tight the way it's supposed to be and leave a little bit of room, which I haven't, for something to come up. So when something comes up, it fucks everything. And then I get mad because it doesn't have anything to do with me. It has to do with something else. But I still have those obligations and responsibilities. If my kids need something or I have to do something and I'm not able to do it because I don't have that time set aside to be able to do that. It's my own fault and I own it. I have to come up with I have to change my system around, my schedule around just a little bit. And that's what I'm going to do as of tomorrow. And it'll be fine.
What's going on, Andrew, with our favorite guy in the NPC, Nate Spear?
You've seen his pictures. He's 275 and still full blown. And we talked yesterday. We're pulling him back a little bit for a little bit of a while. I think we got everything we can out of, post show, pushing it. And now we're really focusing on his health. And I pulled his training back to 3 days, kind of like what I was talking about earlier about what I do with somebody. Pulled his training back to 3 days a week for at least the next 2 weeks. Cause I think you guys probably saw he was getting really strong. He was hitting that 405. Oh, there he is. 405 on the incline presses for like 8 to 10 reps. And it's like, I text him like, dude, like you're an animal now. Like, remember when like 315 for 8 to 10, you were like, holy shit, I just did 3. I'm like, you just did 90 to 100 pounds more than that, Yeah. So I think we both agreed that, and I was kind of waiting for him to give me the signal that he was like, okay, and I think that's kind of where we're at, that it's time to, to get the health going again and just really pull things back a little bit and kind of circle the wagons and get ready for the next big one in a couple weeks here, a couple months here. So
that's cool. Yeah, I've seen his videos, man. He's looking so strong right now, like ridiculously strong.
He's got that thickness and roundness that is just out of this world now. And, everyone always used to say back, when we first started, like, oh, he's a conditioning and a density guy, and like what you've seen over his evolution though, is now people are saying like, oh, he's a shape and a structure guy. And it's like, no, he just built that. Like he built his shoulders out and he built that V taper and flowing quads and all that. So, but I think, expect more good things this year. He's been knocking on the door for 2.5, 3 years.
I think we all do. We all expect.
It's just,
and that makes it hard on him because I think then the expectations that can become stressful too. And I get it, I understand that. But we're all such big fans because not only of his physique, but he's just a good dude. He's got humility, he's grounded, and you just want to see people like that do well. And to see him so close, he's knocking on the door. They're barely opening it, and they're opening it up like this, going, nope, not yet. Click. You're close, but not yet. Oop, closing it back.
Yeah. So,
He'll get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's yeah.
And when he does, it'll be sweeter.
What do you got going on with your own training, Andrew?
I'm really hitting legs hard right now because I'm dealing with a lat issue. I have some crushed nerves in my spine right now, and I've seen a physical therapist. But anyway, it's leading to my right lat really atrophying, and I noticed it throughout my own prep last year, and it was just getting worse and worse. And I actually had a major deficiency in strength on the side where, we were down in South Carolina for Junior USA's with a buddy, and I hadn't noticed anything yet, but I start incline pressing and 80s going up 90s. We get to 110s, and like this arm goes straight up and this one goes like that, like right out to the side. And my buddy's like, "Oh my God, did you just tear your pec?" And I'm like, "No, my pec feels fine." Like, and then I grab another dumbbell and I couldn't even like press it. And then I started noticing I was having deficiencies in strength with rowing, or if I was doing a side lateral and I got my arm up to almost here, I would drop the dumbbell. So I was losing grip strength.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, and I talked to a couple of physical therapists, chiropractors, everything. And we think, cause I flew so much this year, I went to so many shows, and my fiance, Rachel, she competed in 6 shows, mostly down in Florida. So, we flew a lot. The inflammation from the pressure change when you're in an airplane, they think really is what caused this.
No kidding.
Because it was fine up until I started taking multiple flights every, 2-3 times a month. Cause I traveled to all the big shows this year. We did 6 shows for her. So yeah, and I mean, there's some days where I was in some brutal pain in my right, like teres, almost to like my medial trap area, just like shooting pain where like I couldn't sit still. I'd be looking at clients in the hotel and like I'd be fidgeting and they'd be like, "Are you on something?" I'm like, "No, I'm just in crazy pain right now." So yeah, but the pain part went away, and now it's just been trying to get my thoracic spine to move more so that I guess the nerves can innervate or the nerves that are innervated there can fire more efficiently. And I actually have seen like some movement or some changes in strength. Like even just like my dumbbell presses went up like a good deal in the last 3 weeks since I've really been working intensely with this physical therapist. And that's the other thing, like people like, and anyone that trains people in person, when they're like, "Hey, how's your physical therapy going?" They're like, "Oh, it doesn't do anything." It's like, well, your PT said to do this exercise 3 times a day, for 2 weeks until they saw you again. Like, how many times do you do it? And they're like, "Oh, I think I did it like twice." It's like,
yeah.
Then you can't say it didn't work. So when someone who I'm paying tells me to do something, same thing with coaching. Like if someone tells me to do something and that's your path to wellness, I'm going to give it 110% and do those exercises daily. And so I've seen that pay off. So that's kind of where I'm at with training.
Work? You having any Graston work done?
Yep. She does that stuff on me. I actually do it on myself. The gua sha, I think is what it's called. Have you heard that?
That's similar.
It's like it's the same idea. It's scraping. Okay. You can use a butter knife and some lotion basically, and you don't pay $150 an hour for someone to do it for you.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it's all the same thing. Just getting through those adhesions and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing the dry needling. I'm doing these therapy exercises every day at the gym and at home and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, that's where I'm at. But I'm making a lot of progress with my legs because I usually typically do legs once a week, and I like just empty the tank on once, but I've actually divided them up and doing more of a quad focus on a Sunday and more of a hamstring focus on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and seeing a lot of progress there, both in strength and just, I'm actually like, I'm looking at my legs, I'm like, wow, I think they're growing again. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Having fun too,
That's cool. All right, well, let's get out of here. Appreciate everybody who's hanging out with us here on the live feed. And, for everybody at YouTube, we appreciate you guys watching. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this, and, hit the like. You probably already have subscribed if you've watched all, hour and 50 minutes of the podcast. So I don't have to go over that again. Comments help. We appreciate all that stuff. And, Andrew, thanks for joining us, man. It's been cool.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me. Yeah, a lot of fun with you guys. Absolutely.
Very cool.
Check out our sponsor, TrueNutrition.com. Use our code ADVICES for some savings. Plus, it helps to support our programming. And check out the Patreon. I'll have links to all that stuff down below. And we'll have Andrew's social media as well as Skip. We won't have S2H because he's like in the shadows. He's doing some weird covert gun shit. We're not allowed to know what's going on with him. Andrew, is there anywhere else that people should reach out to you, or is social media the best place?
Yeah, social media is the best place, probably just my Instagram. But yeah,
All right, cool. Well, we'll have all that down below. Once again, guys, Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I think this is like episode 102-ish, maybe? 103? 103. Damn. All right. See you guys.
Cool. Thanks, guys.